Thank you very much, Douglas, for giving me the floor and for inviting me to this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, considering the general topic toward Europe, toward equality, we have, I think, to overlook the respective human rights guarantees provided for by the Council of Europe in the European Convention of Human Rights, but also by the Fundamental Rights Charter of the European Union, as well as the European Union acquis, namely the European Union directives on anti-discrimination law. We will talk a little bit about later on. Without these legal instruments, a sustainable improvement of LGBT rights wouldn't have been possible in the past and wouldn't be possible in future. I would like to remember you that Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights, the right to private life, is interpreted in the case law of the European Court of Human Rights in a sense that is also covering the right to sexual orientation, sexual identity, and sexual life. That Article 14 of the European Convention is guaranteeing the prohibition of discrimination. And very similar, Article 8 of the European Union Fundamental Rights Charter is providing for the right to private life, and Article 21 we heard today about this guaranteeing the prohibition of discrimination. And there are many European Union and Council of Europe recommendations and resolutions dealing with this matter, which can be seen as soft law, encouraging and moving forward the item in legal policies. Let me share with you a critical point of view with regard to the European Union acquis with regard to LGBT rights. The European Union acquis communautaire is based in this regard on the Racial Equality Directive and the Employment Directive. Whereas the Racial Equality Directive covers a very broad range of grounds of discrimination, the Employment Directive is shortening this list of grounds of discrimination, not covering, for example, issues of daily life and social security, etc., etc. This leads to a very clear discrimination based on European Union law. And let me say very frankly, it's a shame that we have such a discrimination established by European Union law in this regard, that that there is a clear prohibition to discriminate anybody because on the ground of ethnic origin, but can be discriminated with regard to social security or daily life issues on the ground of sexual orientation. This is a hierarchy of grounds of discrimination we should overcome very soon. I know that there are some efforts undertaken by the European Commission to overcome this hierarchy on the grounds of discrimination, but unfortunately there are some member states of the Union hesitating to follow the opinion of the European Commission and to agree on a full equality in this regard. But, however, the directives improved the situation in Europe also in regard to discrimination on the ground of sexual orientation sustainably. This can be shown and is shown very clearly by the reports and studies which have been undertaken by the European Union Fundamental Rights Agency based in Vienna. Since the year 2008 up to 2011, two very basic studies, reports could be published on legal issues as well as on social issues in this regard, the so-called homophobia studies of the Fundamental Rights Agency, followed by two updates in the year 2010 and 2011. all these 4 reports, and you see the work of the agency is very much dedicated to discrimination, and in particular during the last years to homophobia in Europe. And these reports identify very clearly serious shortcomings in this regard, but shows also some very serious improvements with regard to protection of LGBT rights. I don't like now to listening all the facts and the assessments provided for by these reports. You can have a look to the website of the Fundamental Rights Agency, where you can find all these reports and the executive summaries to get a good overlook on that. But we can state that there is really a good improvement in many states with regard to a better protection of LGBT rights. But we know that much has to be done in future too. The European integration is not only topic of the European Union when we consider our main topic of these days, but also by the Council of Europe. Very often it is not seen clear enough that the Council of Europe developed in the past very strong efforts and very serious European standards, human rights standards, which have also importance for LGBT rights. It's not only the case law of the European Court of Human Rights improving the situation of LGBT people, but also efforts of the Human Rights Directorate of the Council of Europe providing for assessment, studies, analysis in this regard. All these activities by the Council of Europe, by the Human Rights Commissioner of the Council of Europe, are very serious contributions to harmonize the legislation and to develop good practices and good administration with regard also to LGBT rights. If we have a look to the case law of the Strasbourg Human Rights Court, we can see that there are some very important judgments convicting member states of the Council of Europe because of violating LGBT rights. For example, because of criminalization of homosexuality, because of different treatment of heterosexuals. In future, the court will also have possibility to deal with hate speech against homosexual and transgender people. All this, I think, the European Union acquis communautaire, the case law of the Strasbourg Court, the recommendations of Council of Europe committees, all this is, I think, a very good base to take legal action. It's not only an item for governments. It's not only an item for international, for European integrations to move forward, to bring forward the rights of people. As this conference shows very clearly, it's up to us. It's up to people concerned to take action, to take legal action, to be aware of their rights and to fight for their rights. Maybe also in cooperation with non-governmental organizations supported by them. And I would like to underline the importance of strategic litigation, which was very clear shown in the past by very famous lawyers. For example, Mr. Graupner, who undertook strategic litigation to move forward and to implement LGBT rights based on the European Convention of Human Rights in daily practice. Therefore, I would like to repeat it's a topic for us that should be brought and moved forward. Much has been achieved so far, but much has also to be done to achieve full equality of LGBT people. Joint action have to be undertaken. Strategic litigation, awareness raising, as well as education on all levels are needed. We already heard about the importance of training, that only handbooks are not sufficient. It's necessary to apply the books, to train judges, to train prosecutors, to train also university people, to train and to educate students in this regard. And let me say, I have the honor to be visiting professor at Podgorica University on the law faculty, and I met a lot of very committed young people listening to and interested in human rights issues. And I think we should use this possibility to bring to their attention the importance of LGBT rights. I had very positive talks with the law faculty and with the faculty for political science about the possible establishment of a summer school on human rights in Podgorica. And if we can do this, LGBT rights should be a prominent part of such a summer school on human rights. I think this is investment in the future. Maybe, it's also a personal remark, maybe Montenegro is a small country like Austria. And maybe it's easier to take action in a smaller country to develop good practices in this regard. Maybe it's a chance also for Montenegro to develop very good practice, a very good administration, a very good case law in this regard, to be a model for the region, to influence, to have impact, yeah, also on the development in other countries of the region. Maybe it's easier in a smaller country. Let me conclude my short remarks with a look to the European Union's Human Rights Charter and the recently delivered strategy of the European Commission in this regard. In October 2010, the European Commission published a strategy aimed at implementing in a better way the rights of the Fundamental Rights Charter in European Union legislation. I was really very happy to see that the Commission, based on the Charter, is now keeping to a kind of checklist which has to be observed at any step of preparing legislation. Necessity test, proportionality test based on the fundamental rights guarantees of the Charter, etc., etc. And maybe this is really a fantastic chance also in future to develop in a better way fundamental rights guarantees, to implement fundamental rights guarantees, and of course the rights also of LGBT people, if this is done by the European Commission. And I heard that the European Parliament and also the Council of the European Union will follow this practice, will follow this example of the European Commission. In this regard, and as a member of the Management Board of the Fundamental Rights Agency, I would like to underline this maybe in this regard, the studies and the reports of the Fundamental Rights Agency could be of advantage, could be supportive, could be used by the Commission, by the Council, by the Parliament to see where are the human rights shortcomings, what can be improved, how can it be improved, where do we have good examples, good practices in European member states, and having a look to the standards or to the standards of LGBT rights in the several member states of the Union, there are really a lot of differences. So some of the member states are applying the Employment Directive in the same manner concerning all grounds of discrimination, also with regard to the Employment Directive, so that also that all grounds of discrimination and all parts of life are covered by the national legislation, so that full equality can be achieved. Other states don't have these standards. Austria is was only implementing the directives as they are as they are, but not going beyond. Yeah, Germany was going partly beyond the hierarchy of the directives. So maybe this is in future a very good opportunity by applying the studies and reports of the Fundamental Rights Agency to improve the legislation of the European Union, as well, of course, as also the national legal orders. And I think that it could be a great opportunity for Montenegro also to have a look to these reports, to identify good practices whenever appropriate law with regard to LGBT rights and peoples are prepared and are set into force. Thank you very much.